Okay, so every language study has to have a focus question. Alright, that's specific to the English Pathways language study. And the focus question here is, in the context of Battlefield 3, does the language of the online gamer comment differ to that of a professional reviewer? So, great. You've got the context included in that focus question, and you've also got a group of users, but it's a spectrum. It's a range of people. So on one side, okay, you've got user 1, which is like your online gamer. You would think that the language of the online gamer would be a little bit more simple, a bit more emotional, a bit more concrete, but the professional reviewer would be more complex, and that's kind of the theory that's supporting this particular study. So, the context statement, and I will go into this just to go into more detail about the actual context. We've mentioned Battlefield 3, but now we want to go into more detail. What do we mean by online gaming? What do we mean by reviews? So let's read this. The context of this language study is in the world of online reviews and how these reviews are presented. This study focuses on Battlefield 3 and how some reviews are from the game players themselves that are commenting to other players, or the professional game reviewers that are targeting a wider audience, not just the game players. I'll make a note right now that a lot of this, the framework for this study and this topic about reviewers comes from Beverly Derrywanka, who has written a couple of really good articles on the language of appraisal. Alright? So if we continue, the target audience changes depending on who exactly the reviewers are appealing to. Okay, they could be fellow gamers, or it could be to an audience who buys the magazine and reads the articles in a more professional context. For example, the professional reviewers are looked upon highly in the gaming culture because they are very detailed in expressing their opinion. On the other hand, if the language technique is used by the gamers themselves, can be very unprofessional in the way that they express their feelings and thoughts about the game. Now, no doubt some gamers will have a lot of specific technical information about the 3D engine being used and so on, but generally speaking, gamer comments will be at that lower end. Some focus questions include, what kind of language techniques do members of this community use? Why is it that they use the various techniques? How does this change between who is reviewing the game? Okay, so in this case, we have a couple of extra focus questions which might guide your study. The final section of this video looks at specific language analysis. So let's have a look at some language samples and how you could analyse them. So now, this is the first time we look at particular language samples, so I guess a little introduction would be helpful. Samples from various online sources will be analysed. These samples are professional reviews and website user reviews. The information from professional reviewers will generally be expressed in very detailed and concrete language. So the information from professional reviewers will generally be expressed in very detailed and concrete language, whilst the user reviews could be very personal, opinionated or abstract. The audience that the professional reviewers are appealing to are the wider community surrounding these games and topics, whereas the user reviews are generally more specific towards the actual gaming community of Battlefield 3. Let's have a look at this sample here. This comes from, now what this person's done, this student grouped the different reviews depending on topic. One of them is graphics, landscape and visuals. Okay, keep going. So this one's, this first section looks at reviews to do with graphics, landscapes and visuals, okay, from the gaming point of view. Okay, let's read. Sample 1A, the GameSpot review. So this is a fairly professional review. Step into the role of elite US Marines in Battlefield 3. You will experience single-player missions, okay, as well as competitive multiplayer action. Let's stop there. In diverse locations around the world. You will get to experience fighting on claustrophobic streets metropolitan downtowns, and vehicle-friendly landscapes in the US, Europe, and the Middle East. This version of Battlefield, check this out, this is exactly what I'm talking about with the is. Okay? Is powered by a new innovative technology called Frostbite 2, which delivers superior visual quality, a grand scale, massive destruction, lifelike character animations, and dynamic audio. Now, let's stop there and pause for a moment. Already you've got, if you have a look over here again, I'll just bring you back to this. We have to analyse words. We have to analyse the nouns, but not only that, the noun groups. Notice that we're going from simple to complex. This is a professional review, so a lot of that will be on the more abstract, more complex, larger frameworks. Have a look at this. If you look at single player mission, that's 2 to 3 words. Lifelike character animations, that's 2 to 3 words. He could have just said, used one simple word there, but that's what makes this more complex, because it's got longer noun descriptions. Another one here is the competitive multiplayer action. Yeah, I know that action is the noun, and often these are adjectives or extra class descriptions, like lifelike character animations. Okay, lifelike is probably your adjective. Character animations, character is probably your class description, and then you've got animations. But all together, put together, they become fairly long noun groups. Okay. So, let's just continue and we'll wrap it up in a minute. Watch as bullets fly by, walls crumble, and explosions throw you to the ground. In addition, Battlefield 3 offers unparalleled vehicular war. Experience all sorts of vehicle types for land, air, and sea. Battlefield 3 will be available, that's a bit like your is, will be available on, actually no, sorry, that's the future, that's available, no, ignore that. Will be available on the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3 and PC. Alright, just a quick one. Any reviewer, any good reviewer, knows how to still relate to their audience. So they'll still use you, or the step, talking to you about what you can expect to find. Step into the role of, watch as bullets fly. Alright?
Yep.
There are a couple of samples. So this particular student listed his samples first and then analysed them next. That's one way to do it. Otherwise, you could do your analysis straight after each sample, language sample. So let's read a couple more. An outstanding teamwork-based battlefield simulation. Complete the tanks, jeeps, jets, and helicopters. Single-player campaign is great, with stunning visuals and intense action in the air, land, and tank. A definite buy in my books. What about this one? Metacritic. These are mostly professional reviews, so let's have a look at some of the other types. We might look at this one here. This is a user review, so someone like a gamer who's just put their comment up. This is my first Battlefield, and I'm quite impressed with the multiplayer. I love leveling up, love the graphics. I stay alive a lot longer than in Reach. Very addicting and fun. The single player campaign is too much in Rails for my likes. So this guy's got some pretty good language happening. A couple of those longer noun groups. My first Battlefield, I'm impressed with the multiplayer. Okay. But it's quite simple, very addicting and fun. A lot more emotional type language. I love leveling up. I love leveling up. I love the graphics. I stay alive a lot longer. So it's much more about the person's experience. Okay, so you can analyse that sort of thing. Lastly, how do you start to analyse your features? Okay, let's see how this is done here. Alright. So, question. Where do the above language samples fit into the register continuum? This is the continuum we've all had a look at. You've got a copy somewhere, and it spreads itself out from concrete to abstract, spoken light to written light. Okay, hold on. Sample 1A. Sample 1A has a sophisticated written light language. It uses fairly long, complex sentence structure. Okay, so he's analysing the language. For example, the sentence, this version of Battlefield is powered by a new innovative technology called Frostbite, blah-da-da-da, quotes that, uses, and then analyses aspects of the language. Uses the word which as the context. and the relational process is. The reason why this student has used the word relational